Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk a bit on speech communities. What are speech communities? Some definitions of speech communities, because speech communities are defined by different writers, and characteristics of speech communities, two concepts that are emphasized by speech community: intersecting communities, networks, and repertoires. So let's get started. Speech community. First of all, let's understand what is community. Community, it is a social structure that shares personal values, culture values, business goals, attitude, or a worldview. Community has been defined as a group of interacting people living in a common location that is called community. Now, what is speech community? A group of people who share the same language, speech characteristics, and ways of interpreting communication, that is called speech community. Means they don't use another language, they have same language, they have same speech characteristics. And the second definition, that is all the people who use a given language or dialect is called speech community. It is derived from the German word. Some definitions of speech communities by different writers. A speech community is a group of people who form a community and share the same language or a particular variety of language. Speech communities can be large or small, although linguists don't agree on how they are defined. But according to Charles Hockett, each language defines speech community the whole set of people who communicate with each other either directly or indirectly via a common language. That is called speech community according to Charles Hockett. And John Lyons says that all the people who use a given language or dialect make speech community. The same Gumfres, he says that any human aggregate characterized by regular and a frequent interaction by means of a shared body of verbal signs like language, dialect, and variety, and set off from similar aggregates by significant difference in language use. And Leonard Bloomfield, a speech community is a group of people who interact by means of speech. So these were the definitions which were presented by different writers, different linguists. Like John Lyons defines speech community as all people who use a given language or dialect. I already told about it. A group of people who share rules for conducting and interpreting at least one variety of a language or dialect. The term can be applied to a neighborhood, a city, a region, or a nation. What are the characteristics of speech community? The first characteristic, that is they speak the same language or dialect. So that is the main characteristic of speech community. They share the same language or dialect. The second one, that is the members of the group must interact linguistically with other members of the community. And the third one, that is they may share similar attitudes towards linguistics forms. That is the third characteristics of speech community. And the fourth, that is a group of people who speak the same language and share the same words and grammar words. For example, a group of English language speakers throughout the world, that is the best example of, that is the best characteristics of speech community. Now, two concepts that are emphasized by speech community. The first one is shared community membership. Means you need to belong a specific place. Now, what is shared community membership? That means that you need to belong a specific place like the villages, towns, or countries you are, and you also need to share some common hobbies and your interpersonal lifestyle in order to be accepted by that community. So that comes in shared community membership. The second one is shared linguistic communication. Now, shared linguistic communication means it is related to language. There should be mutual intelligibility. You need to be understood by other members of that speech community. Means you speak the same language. That is a second emphasized concept of speech community. Now, what are intersecting communities? Intersecting communities means An individual belongs to various speech communities at the same time, but on another particular occasion will identify with only one of them. So, the particular identification, depending on what is especially important or constructive in the circumstances. Now, its example is in my class. In one group, all of us have different language. In our speech community, we have different community and different language in our class, but in the same time, we are one or speech community because English is used to discuss or communicate with each other. Means all of us have more than one speech communities in the same time. So that comes in intersecting communities. So Rosen told about, like, Rosen is a linguist. Rosen claims that cities can't be thought of as a linguistic patchwork maps get to because language and dialects have no simple geographical distribution. The second reason he gave, like, because interaction between them blurs but whatever boundaries might be drawn. Dialects and languages are beginning to influence each other. Example, London is a community in some senses, but not in others. Neither a single speech community, even though it has 300 languages or more. It's too big and fragmented. It's too difficult to relate of speech community directly to language or languages spoken. The concept of speech community is less useful than what is expected, and we should be instead referring to a group as any set of individuals united for a common, and a person can belong to many different groups at any given time depending on the particular ends in view. Now here is another example, like Laura. Laura is living in Sweden. Now Laura is living in Sweden, married to a Swedish man, and Laura and her husband speak mostly English and Swedish, switching and mixing both from time to time. Now Laura had to learn Swedish with an intense course in Sweden. She is an immigrant from Costa Rica. Costa Rica is also present, means that's a country in Central America. Laura has an accent. Laura does not speak Swedish that well. She uses Swedish in the hospital as well as English, switching from time to time and from one group to another. So that was all about intersecting communities. Now the second, that is networks and repertoires. A person can be part of various speech communities, some that interact and some that don't. Certain individuals may be in one or more groups but not others. The linguistic repertoire of one individual speak is determined by the language varieties that he or she knows and uses within his or her speech community, active and passive knowledge. So here we have 4 types of network. The first one is open networks. Now what are open networks? A network which provides open network to its users. Information is open, new and of importance. A serious blogger, visitor of blog. And closed networks are what? Mostly strong ties. Information that flows in those networks tend to be redundant, and redundant means repetition of some sense in different words or more than is needed, desired or required. And inefficient. Facebook, like an inefficient Facebook, that is the best example of closed networks. And the third is dense network. People you know and interact also know and interact with one another. So that is what that comes in dense network. The last one, that is multiplex network. Tied together in a network like strong social cohesion, feelings of solidarity, encouragement to identify with others. Repertoires. Now what are repertoires? According to Plato, repertoire is the range of linguistic varieties that the speaker has at her disposal, and he/she may appropriately use a member of his or her speech community, like verbal repertoire, speech repertoire. We have 2 types, that is verbal repertoire and speech repertoire. So let's understand the concept of verbal repertoire. Verbal repertoire, the totality of linguistic forms employed in a socially significant interaction. Now that significant interaction is what? Vocabulary, grammar. And speech repertoire is linguistic varieties used by a speech community. It is important to remember that a group is relative concept with respect to speech community. Also that an individual belongs to various speech communities at the same time, but he or she will identify with only one of them. So this was all about today's. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If this video has sparked your interest, I request you to share, like and comment. See you in the next video. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.